Hey guys, it's Caitlin. Welcome back to my channel. If you saw my POTS video, which is the one I posted most recently, I mentioned that I was going to share my whole chronic illness story. Well, not my whole story, because that would take about 10 years to film. But I will briefly share some of the overview summary details of my life for the past 5 years so you can kind of get a glimpse of what's been going on and where I'm at now. So yeah, let's just get into it because long intros are unnecessary. I've kind of always had symptoms my whole life. I struggled with migraines and stomach aches when I was younger, but there were never like a huge amount of symptoms that would make us look for a diagnosis like POTS or Chiari, some of the conditions that I have going on now. And so they were just kind of like mildly spread out through my childhood. And then when I was 17 in 2015, I had an ovarian cyst, and ever since then I have had the blessing of chronic illness symptoms. So with POTS can be triggered by several things. It can be triggered by a virus, a hormonal shift, surgery, trauma like a car accident, a whole slew of things. So mine was triggered by my ovarian cyst, but for 6 months of that time we didn't know what was going on. We didn't know that I even had POTS, so we were just kind of left in the dark with a lot of things. My symptoms just slowly started increasing and getting more widespread. I started with stomach pain and nausea after eating. I had a little bit of fatigue, but not too much. Things like dizziness and tingling in my fingers, getting tired with activity, and they just kind of slowly built up. So 4 months into that journey since the ovarian cyst, I was diagnosed with Chiari malformation, which, if you're not familiar with that, it's where some of the brain tissue right here at the base of your neck slips down into your spinal cord a little bit, and that can cause a lot of very similar symptoms to POTS. And so when we found out that I had Chiari, we thought that was the end. We had figured it out. I was going to have the surgery to fix it. My life was going to be better. 4 months in, the end. That was going to be great. And we saw a couple neurosurgeons, and they were like, yeah, your symptoms aren't really, I mean, they're related to Chiari, but they're not the Chiari typical symptoms, and it's not enough for you to require surgery. So you should just keep looking elsewhere. And one of them, I believe, actually suggested POTS. And so that's kind of the avenue we went down next. 2 months after that, which is about 5 or 6 months into this journey, I was able to see a POTS specialist, which that is a very short amount of time to see a POTS specialist. A lot of people with POTS, they go very many years without getting a diagnosis or answers or doctors that know what's going on. I was thankful to run into doctors along the way that could point me in the right direction. I mean, if you think about it, technically I did have POTS symptoms for several years of my life, like my whole life. I did have some random things here and there that now that we know I have POTS, we can think back and go, yeah, that was POTS all along. That's crazy. But still, 6 months is a very short amount of time. I was very, very blessed and very thankful for that. I think the second appointment that I had with the POTS specialist, he diagnosed me. He did the tilt table test, which, if you don't know what that is, you lay down on a table and they check all your vitals, like your blood pressure, heart rate, temperature, and they raise you up to about 70 degrees, and they hold you there for up to like 20 minutes or until you pass out, pretty much, and they'll monitor your vital signs and they'll ask what symptoms you're having. I lasted about 3 minutes before I passed out, and so they promptly laid me back down, thankfully. But that was it right there. That was my POTS diagnosis. So now I have Chiari and I have POTS, and we were going from there. We tried a couple medications. Nothing really did too much. I was eventually able to get in to see a gastroenterologist because my main symptoms were related to my gastrointestinal system. So pain with eating after food, which turned into pain 24/7, nausea. I had a little bit of tiredness after eating, but that wasn't too bad at this point. So right now we're about 9 months in, and I see this gastroenterologist, and he orders like all of the testing that he orders for patients like me that come in. It was about 7 or 8 different tests that we did over the next 2 or 3 months, and that really didn't come back showing very much. Each test came back showing a little something that is off with my body, but nothing fully came to a conclusion of a diagnosis And so the only thing he could really say was like, well, it's POTS related, or you're hypersensitive to food. And so by the time I get those GI test results back, we're about a year in. I'm still having stomach pain. The stomach pain has not stopped since day one of finding that ovarian cyst. And so I've had 365 days of pain and symptoms. Not fun, especially when you're going through high school and you want to keep up with your academics and your sports and your social life, what little social life I had. But anyways, so we go from there. I continue to see my GI doctor every couple of months, but he just kind of says, well, I'll see you again next time, see you again next time. He would give me medications, but I do not respond well to medications at all. They are very harmful to my body. They usually cause bad side effects, and they usually make the symptom that it's targeting even worse. So those are kind of like off the books for me. We don't really focus too much on medications at this point in the journey. And so the summer of 2016, which is a year and a half into things, that is when we pursue with getting a feeding tube, because at that point my energy levels after eating food were getting significantly worse. I was getting to the point where I would eat a meal and have to be out on the couch, like not able to do any activity at all for several hours, and then by that point it would be time to eat the next meal, and then I would have to lay back down again because I had just eaten again, and it just was just this continuous cycle. And I was about to go to college, just like that next fall. I had just graduated high school, and this is where the symptoms really started picking up even worse. I started losing weight because we had tried a liquid diet to see if that would help, and it did, but I could not consume enough with a liquid diet to maintain my weight. So that's when we decided to get the feeding tube, and it helped my symptoms. It was amazing. I wasn't tired hardly at all anymore. My stomach didn't hurt all the time. It still hurt when I chose to eat solid food, but for the most part I was on the feeding tube. And I continued to see doctors during that time. No one really knows what's going on. No one has a plan to get me back on food. And so I ended up having the feeding tube for about 2.5 years. But during this whole time, just no one really figured out why. I had attempted a couple of times during my journey to slowly start introducing food back, but it would always fail just with pain. And I eventually got to the point where I had to be fed through my intestines instead of my stomach, because the stomach continued to get worse after that. And so that was a little bit hard to handle. So the next really significant point in my journey was in 2018, which is 3 years into my journey with my health stuff. That is when I got stem cell injections, which, if you don't know what stem cells are, one, I did a vlog about it. I'll link it up here, I think, maybe up here, but I think up here. So you can check that out if you're curious. But stem cells are like blank cells, and when they're injected into your body, they can travel around and look for areas of your body that is harmed or damaged, and they can stick to that area and replicate the cells around it, so it can grow new and healthy tissue. And so we did a couple rounds of stem cell injections, and the first year I didn't really see, well, the first, I would say, 6 months, I didn't really see any results. And then by the 6-month mark, I was like, you know, I want to try to transition my body back to stomach feeding and get off of intestinal feeding. And I was able to do that very slowly, what I assumed was with the help of stem cells. And then after I was able to get on stomach feeding, I was able to slowly introduce food back into my diet, to the point where I was completely back on food, fully eating without pain, without symptoms. I got my tube removed. When I got my tube removed, that was 4 years post ovarian cyst and the start of everything. And I was eating like just fine, and my energy started picking up, my POTS symptoms slowly started getting better. And at this point, we're in 2019, so this was just last year that all of my symptoms started improving. I was very active. This is the year that I was dating my current husband, and I was just so thankful for the timing of everything, with my symptoms getting better and just this new love and adventure in my life. And so my husband and I got married in November of 2019, and later that month, my GI symptoms started coming back slowly. It was very insignificant at first, but it's grown, and now, like currently today, it's gotten to the point where my stomach pain and my fatigue are pretty severe again. They kind of came back at the same time. So right now when I eat, I have pretty significant pain. I would say probably like typically a 6 or a 7 level. Sometimes it's upwards of an 8 or a 9. And my fatigue has gotten to the point where it's getting difficult to do my 2 hours of work each day. It's difficult to do my classes and just do my everyday things around the house that needs to be done to maintain the household. And so life is pretty difficult right now. And pause because I'm out of breath. Also, this is your daily, hourly reminder to drink some water. And so that's where I am right now. This is how I felt about a year ago. Around this time last year, I was still introducing food, and so I was better. But I would say maybe more so like a year and a half ago. This is where I was at. I was struggling with my energy a lot, and just doing everyday life was really tough. Around this time last year, which I have another video, I had to quit my babysitting job, which I've been nannying for quite a few years in my life, and so that's just the route that I go towards when I'm looking for a job. And right now I nanny 2 hours a day. But that's right now getting difficult just with my symptoms coming back up. And I had an appointment with my GI doctor a couple of weeks ago, and she said that she knows there's something going on wrong that we just haven't found yet, but she just doesn't know what it is. And so, I mean, that's been the story with my GI symptoms ever since everything started. No one can piece all the little clues together. It's just put back onto, well, it's just related to POTS. You just have a bad case of GI symptoms with your POTS in particular, because like I said in my POTS video, every set of symptoms is different. Everyone deals with different struggles because the autonomic nervous system controls so many things. And so yes, that is my brief overall health journey. I realized that I never really shared that on this YouTube account. I just kind of talked about things here and there in each video. So I hope this helps piece things together. And if you're going through a possible POTS or chronic illness diagnosis, or you're just struggling like I was within those first 6 months and within the past 5 years with my GI stuff, just not knowing what's going on, there are other people like you. I understand what you're going through, and I hope that you can find support. Yeah, so thanks for watching my quick little ramble here. I really appreciate the support. If you haven't subscribed, I really appreciate it. I talk about chronic illness and I talk about lifestyle in my videos. So I hope to talk to you guys soon again, and thanks for watching, and see you guys next time. Bye!